conversations about music between you and Slash, or is that just not what you talk about with him?
You got to really believe in what you're doing.
Great. Zizi, you're fresh off the Slash tour. I can picture you and Slash having long conversations about blues and music. Maybe there was time, maybe there wasn't time, but were there any of those conversations? Anything memorable hanging out with Slash?
Yeah. I mean, like one time I was talking to him and he was, he knows that I have my two little kids out there with me. I mean, I have an almost 4-year-old and like Ellie was like, Elijah was like 6 months when we were out there, which was like a month ago, right? But
so now he's what, 7 months or yeah.
He's like 8 months.
He's 8 months now. What a difference a couple months can make. I know.
It really does make a difference.
Yeah.
But I said to him, I was like, sorry, I'm like, I try to keep my kids on the tour bus and like out of the green room so they're not like crying and driving everybody nuts. And he was like, oh, it's okay. He's like, I used to bring my boys on tour with me. He's like, but then at a certain point, he's like, they don't want to come anymore. It was like, kind of felt sad. He was like, they don't want to come out anymore on tour. And in my head, I was like, oh my God, like, am I going to get to a time where like my voice just like,
no, listen, my kids are going to be on the road with me forever. They're going to love it. They're going to be grateful for the experiences. That's never going to happen to my kids. Slash, you don't know anything. Is that what you say to him?
I don't know. I probably didn't say that, but I was probably thinking it. You're right. I was probably like, no way. Like my boys are always going to come out on the road with me. So,
but any conversations about music between you and Slash, or is that just not what you talk about with him? Because he's talking about everything else. But
no, I mean, we talked about the blues a little bit. I think that he had said that he always because he just did a blues album.
Yeah, right.
Orgy of the Damned. So he really wanted to do that project for a really long time. And he's just got so many things in the works. I was like, so you can do more of this? Or like, what do you, have coming up? And he basically was like, yeah, I want to get off this tour. I'm going out with a bunch of different bands. Like, I'm going with this band, I'm going out this band, and then this band. And then I'm like, wow, you have like so many things that you're doing. It's crazy.
God, that must have been a great tour though. Does that inspire you? Because you're about to go out and headline too, like in the last couple of months of this year. But do you hang out with Slash and you go, I got to do more tours, or do you feel like you're doing enough?
I don't know. It's tough being a mom with 2 babies.
I
mean, like, yeah, I love being out. I mean, it's just that it's a lot. I love it though. I mean, you got to do it. I mean, the alternative is just not doing it. Just being like, all right, well, you know what? I have 2 kids. I'm just going to say,
No.
I love music too much. No, I love music too much.
No.
Yeah. So it's a balance. It's a balance.
Okay. But Slash is doing all these tours, and then he just comes into the green room. He starts telling you about all these tours that he's doing, and then he goes and plays the show. Or like, did you find out anything interesting about any blues influences on his playing, or do you get to play with him at all?
I didn't get to play with him, but what's funny? I didn't play with him on this tour. And I think it's because I thought about it, because he played with a lot of different people on the tour and he didn't play with me. But I think it's because every person he played with plays guitar, right? Like every person on the tour that he jammed with plays guitar. I was the only person that doesn't actually just like jam on guitar. I just sing.
Do you ever wish that you could play, like you do play guitar, you can play a little guitar, but do you ever wish that you had, I don't know, learned more guitar? Or do you feel like that's not that important?
Yes and no. I think it depends like where you want to put your time, right? Like I think you can only get good at like so much, unless I guess you're Prince.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But like there's a few people that are just like an anomaly. But I think for me, like, I would rather be great at writing songs than be a great guitar player and a shitty songwriter, right? And so I always look at it that way. Now, maybe that's not fair, but for me, like if I would have put all my time into becoming a guitar player, then my songs might not be that great. I would rather listen, because that's for me too. Like I'd rather listen to a great song than a great guitar player. I want to hear a great guitar player play on a great song, but I want to hear a great song. So I think that's probably where I put my energy more.
That makes a lot of sense. But Slash didn't bring you up to play harmonica at any point. And does he know you can play harmonica? Because that would have been such a great performance.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. It's
Oh my
I
God.
can't. I don't know. I don't know what was going through his head and what he was thinking. But on the positive side of things, I can tell you that being out there for me really felt like an honor for me to be out there with him. And also, he had so many amazing blues musicians that, like, that I respect out there. Like I was side stage talking to Keb Mo, and I was like, I grew up like going to his concert, so I was like, this is such a trip, that
What
I'm
do you
sitting here.
talk to Kev Mo about? Like, do you talk about the blues or do you go that he doesn't want to talk about the blues because that's all anyone talks to Kev Mo about? Like, what do you say to Kev Mo?
Um, the things I can remember from like Keb Mo talking to me that like really like stood out to me were like he was so encouraging of me to like stand up for like what I wanted in the studio. Like he wanted to talk to me about that. And he wanted to like make sure he knew that like he really thought that like I should stand up for what I want. And it's interesting. And I think it's because maybe he felt like I'm just assuming like times in his life that maybe he wished that he stood up more for what he thought or something because he was like talking to me as I was a younger artist, like saying like you really don't worry so much about what people think of you. If it sounds great. If they say it sounds great, it doesn't matter. What do you think? And stand up for that. And so I thought that was really powerful. That's kind of what we were talking about when we last spoke. So
And were you talking about this most recent record and how you wanted to have more of a blues focus? And does he push you to lean into that? Or with the last record, the last record was great too, but it had all kinds of influences. Dirty
mhm, mhm,
Shine. Like, was
mhm.
it in between those two records they were having that conversation with Kev Mo, and he says, what does he say? He says, "Don't take any shit from anyone. Just lean into what you think is going to work in the studio."
Yeah, because I was asking him a lot about like where he was at with his music, and I think he produces a lot of it himself. And it was kind of interesting, like hearing his story about like where he started with making music and where he is now, and and yeah, I think that also he's a lot older. He's old. He looks amazing. He's a lot older than I even thought he was, and so I think that he's probably thinking about what's the most important thing I could share with this person to help them, right? Like, because I get it. I guess if I was talking to a younger artist, I'd probably feel the same way. I'd be like, okay, well, what have I learned that I can share with this youngster to kind of like help them? So I think that's kind of where it was coming from.
And is it the same advice, or if you're coming up, maybe do you have to be more collaborative with your producer? Because maybe your producer, I don't know what, but like, is it the same advice that you would give to someone coming up, or is someone who's brand new going to be in a completely different place on their musical journey?
It's kind of similar advice. I think that usually what I say to people, like, because sometimes I get asked in interviews, like, if you could give somebody like one that's striving to be or aspiring to be an artist, like, what would you tell them? And I usually say to people, like, which is similar to what he said to me, but I guess different. Like, you need to believe in yourself before anybody else will believe in you. You need to love your music and believe in your music before anybody else is going to. And I think that that reigns really true because a lot of times, a lot of people close doors in your face. A lot of people say no. You got to really believe in what you're doing.